My mom literally looked me in the eyes, holding my report card like it was a criminal record, and said, "A B plus in AP chemistry means you didn't try hard enough." While my brother sat 10 feet away eating cereal, celebrating the fact that he passed sophomore year with 3 DS and a C minus. Let me back up so this actually makes sense. My name's Jalen, I'm 17, and I'm a junior at a pretty competitive public high school in Virginia. I live with both my parents and my younger brother Marcus, who's 15 and a sophomore. My parents are both college educated. My dad's an engineer, and my mom works in hospital administration. Education was never optional in our house. It was like oxygen, you just did it. From the time I could hold a pencil, there were expectations. Read by 4, multiplication tables by second grade, honor roll every single quarter starting in middle school. And honestly, I didn't really fight it. I liked school. I liked being good at things. I liked the way my dad would put my report card on the fridge and my mom would call my grandma to brag. That stuff felt good when I was 12. It still kind of does if I'm being real. But somewhere around freshman year, the expectations stopped feeling like encouragement and started feeling like a quota. Like I wasn't being cheered on, I was being monitored. Marcus is a completely different kid. He's funny, he's athletic, he's the type of person who walks into a room and everyone just likes him. But school has never been his thing. He was diagnosed with ADHD in middle school, and my parents got him a tutor and a 504 plan, and they've always been way more lenient with him about grades, which I understood. I really did. For a long time, I didn't have a problem with it. Different kids, different standards. That makes sense on paper. But here's the thing that paper doesn't show you. When different standards plays out over years, it starts to feel less like fairness and more like favoritism wearing a sensible disguise. Since freshman year, I have made honor roll every single quarter. Not because someone forced me, but because I genuinely worked for it. I took AP classes early. I stayed after school for extra help when I needed it. I studied on weekends when my friends were going to the movies. And every time a report card came, my parents would scan it, nod, maybe say, "Good job," and move on. It was expected. It was baseline. It didn't earn celebration, it just avoided disappointment. Meanwhile, Marcus would bring home a report card that looked like the alphabet after D, and my parents would sit him down, talk softly, ask if he needed more support, adjust his screen time a little, and then basically say, "We're proud of you for trying." And look, I know he struggles. I know ADHD is real. I'm not some jerk who thinks he's faking it. But when you watch your brother get praised for a 67 in geometry, while you get silence for a 93 in AP World History, something inside you starts keeping score, even when you don't want to. That scoreboard had been quietly running in the back of my brain for almost 3 years before it finally exploded. This past semester was the hardest academic stretch of my life. I was taking AP Chemistry, AP English Language, Pre-Calculus Honors, AP US History, and regular Spanish Roman 3. 5 classes, 3 of them AP level, as a junior. I was also doing Model UN and volunteering at a tutoring center on Saturdays because my parents wanted my college applications to look strong. I was sleeping maybe 5 hours a night. Some weeks I'd be up until 2 in the morning finishing lab reports, and then dragging myself to school at 6:45. AP Chemistry specifically was destroying me. The teacher, Mr. Haddad, was one of those brilliant but brutal types who curved nothing and graded everything like you were already in college. Half the class had below a B. I ended the semester with an 89.4, a B plus. Everything else was an or A minus. My GPA for the semester was a 3, 87 weighted, and I felt good about it, genuinely. I walked out of that semester feeling like I survived something and came out strong on the other side. Report cards came on a Friday. My parents checked the portal before the paper copies even arrive. I was in my room when my mom called me downstairs. She was sitting at the kitchen table with her laptop open. My dad was standing behind her with his arms crossed. Not a great sign. She turned the screen toward me and pointed at the B plus like it had personally offended her. "Jalen, what happened in chemistry?" she said. And I told her about the difficulty of the class, about Mr. Haddad's grading scale, about how an 89 in that class was genuinely above average. She just shook her head. "An 89 is not your best, you know that?" My dad chimed in. "If you'd spent less time on your phone and more time reviewing, that would have been an A." I wasn't even on my phone that much. I literally had screen time limits they set themselves, but that didn't matter. They told me I was grounded for 2 weeks. No going out with friends. No TV on weeknights, no PlayStation. 2 weeks for a B plus in an AP class while maintaining a 387. I stood there trying to process it, and before I could even respond, Marcus came downstairs holding a bowl of cinnamon toast crunch, totally unbothered, and my mom looked at him and said, "And I swear I am not exaggerating this, Marcus, I saw your grades. I'm really proud of you for pulling that English grade up to a C. That's real improvement." He had gotten 2 DS, a C minus in math, and a C in English. His GPA was like a 1.7, and she was proud. I felt something crack inside my chest. Not anger exactly, but something worse. This wave of exhaustion mixed with disbelief, mixed with the realization that nothing I did was ever going to be enough. I looked at my mom and I said, "So he gets congratulated for DS and I get punished for B plus. How does that make any sense?" The kitchen went dead quiet. My dad's jaw tightened. My mom set her coffee down and said, "Don't compare yourself to your brother. You know he has different challenges." "So do I said, and my voice cracked a little, which made me even more frustrated. "I'm taking 3 APs. I'm doing everything you've ever asked me to do. I volunteer on my only free day. I don't party, I don't get in trouble. And 1 B plus means I get grounded?" My dad stepped forward. "Watch your tone. We're not having a debate. You know what you're capable of, and a B plus is not it." That sentence hit me somewhere deep, because what he was basically saying was that my best wasn't relevant, only their version of my best mattered. I went back to my room and closed the door. I didn't slam it, I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But I didn't, because even in that moment, some part of me was still trying to be the perfect kid. I sat on my bed and stared at the ceiling and felt this horrible cocktail of emotions, like I wanted to scream and cry, and also just disappear for a while. I texted my best friend Nia and told her what happened. She immediately called me and was practically yelling through the phone about how unfair it was. And it felt good to be validated, but it also made me feel worse because it confirmed that this wasn't just in my head. The next 2 weeks were brutal. Not because of the grounding itself, honestly, I didn't even go out that much anyway, but because of the atmosphere in the house. My parents acted like everything was normal. My mom would ask me how my day was at dinner. My dad would talk about the news. Marcus would crack jokes. And I just sat there simmering, giving one-word answers, feeling like a ghost in my own family. About a week into the grounding, I made the mistake that I know some of you are going to judge me for. Nia had posted about the situation on her private story, not using names, just saying, "Imagine punishing your kid for a B plus in an AP class while the other kid gets praised for DS. Make it make sense." It blew up in our friend group. People were screenshotting it, sharing it, adding their own commentary. Someone I barely knew sent it to someone who goes to Marcus's school, and somehow, I still don't know exactly how, it got back to my parents. My mom came into my room on a Tuesday night, phone in hand, and she was furious. "You told your friends about our family business? You put our parenting on the internet for people to judge?" I tried to explain that I didn't post it, that Nia did, that I had just vented to my friend and she took it further, but my mom wasn't hearing it. "You made us look like bad parents," she said, and her voice was shaking. And in that moment, I said something I probably shouldn't have. I looked at her and said, "Maybe if the shoe fits." She left my room without another word. My grounding got extended to a month. My dad came in later and told me I had deeply disrespected my mother and that I needed to apologize. I didn't apologize, not that night, not the next day either. The house felt like a pressure cooker with the valve sealed shut. Marcus, to his credit, actually came to my room one evening and said, "Bro, I think they're being unfair to you. I've told them that." And I appreciated that, but it also stung, because even my 15-year-old brother could see what my parents refused to. Here's the part that rewired my brain a little. About 3 weeks into this nightmare, I was grabbing water from the kitchen late at night and I heard my parents talking in their bedroom. The door was cracked. I know I shouldn't have listened, but I did. My mom was crying. She said, "I just don't want him to struggle like I did. I barely got through college. I almost flunked out sophomore year. Nobody pushed me and I almost ruined my life." And my dad said, "I know, but I think we're overcorrecting. He's a good kid. He's better than both of us were." There was a long pause and then my mom said, quietly, "I know he is. I just don't know how to stop being scared for him." I went back to my room and sat in the dark for a long time, because suddenly the B plus thing wasn't just about a grade. It was about my mom's fear, her own history of almost failing. She wasn't punishing me out of cruelty, she was parenting out of terror. That doesn't make it right, but it made it make sense in a way it hadn't before. Things are still weird. The grounding technically ended, but we haven't really talked about any of it. I did eventually apologize for what I said, that if the shoe fits comment, because even though I was hurt, I know that was cruel and I don't want to be the kind of person who uses words like weapons when I'm angry. My parents haven't apologized for grounding me over a B plus. I don't know if they ever will. I still think the double standard is real, and I still think it's unfair, but I also understand now that it's more complicated than I wanted it to be. So here's my question for you. Do you think I was wrong for pushing back, or were my parents wrong for holding me to a standard they'd never applied to my brother? And be honest, was I out of line for venting to Nia, knowing it could spread? I genuinely want to know, because I'm still trying to figure out where the line is between standing up for yourself and just making everything worse.